Twisted Tales.
Twisted Tales, Twisted Tales, hell, blood and bones and no trails. Twisted Tales, hell, who got teeth and drags their nails. Urban riding, back road sins, dead men talking through the wind. Cursed objects, killer law. Once you hear it, you want more. No fairy dust, no.
Hey everybody, it's Jeremy here. Episode 6 of Twisted Tales here on the All Access Family Network. And tonight, I bring to you a really dear, close personal friend of mine. This gentleman has been involved in the paranormal for over 20 years. He is a demonologist, has been all over the world. He is a really good friend of mine, Mr. James Annitto. Please come on the show. Hey, man, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing, brother?
Not too bad, man. You know, both of us living up in the New England area, we've just been getting the shit pounded out of us with snow recently, and I figure I gotta get that whole isotrope out of the way because it's been a real backbreaker the last couple of days for sure.
Yeah, it's been messy. You know what's good about it though is we're both in fine physical health right now. None of us are hurting. None of us in the hospital, and you know, if people that have been affected by this, you know, hopefully you make it out of this. But yeah, no, what a historic storm we just got in my area. And of course you got a little bit of outskirts of it, but yeah, man, we got pounded.
No, you did. You guys got hit in the what they call it, the jackpot zone on Channel 4 TV. I was like, really? I don't know if that's the kind of jackpot that I would actually want to have.
Yeah, we got the whole of the freaking boom cyclone. Like we bent right over for it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely, my man. Absolutely. Listen, you know, I want to get into a little bit of your backstory because I know you have a very storied length of time in the paranormal. So how did you actually get involved with the paranormal? Like, when was your very first paranormal adventure experience?
It wasn't until like I was probably about 15 years old, where I was just fascinated by the idea of spirits or ghosts or, supernatural things. And so, you know, a couple shows kind of got me interested in applying my study as a child and as a teenager. So, we just go to like the local historic graveyards. We live in Rhode Island, so we have a lot of history around us, especially where I grew up. You know, we have historic cemeteries and places that, maybe we should have not gone into as well, but we were kids and brash and stupid. So, you know, we went, but we didn't go in to be jerks about it or deface. We went in there for like a couple buddies and myself. Myself went in there to just be spooked or find something, right? So I would say that was my early introduction of like getting involved in the paranormal in a physical sense instead of just like reading it and being fascinated by it through television and literature.
Wow, that's pretty cool, man. So where did you do your very first paranormal investigation? Like where did you cut your teeth into the actual investigating?
So there's a local cemetery that I actually used for a long time as like when I had my own team as like a training ground, because I do believe in outdoor investigating as a key of understanding outside influences to your investigation. But Quidnessett Memorial Cemetery in Rhode Island is probably one of my favorite spots. It's a gigantic cemetery. And but I would say it would be the Lat School, which was a mental health hospital and behavioral in Rhode Island that has been mostly knocked down now. But yeah, I think there's maybe like a remnant of one or two buildings, but if not, none of them. But it was it had a prolific history in Rhode Island because of the abuse charges against them and stuff like that. A lot of things came out of there, which then, of course, shut the school down due to, of course, financing and grants. But Yeah, no, that was one of the places. It was so unsafe, but so spooky, and just knowing the history of like the emotions and stuff that and the abuse and the trauma that occurred at that location, just it kind of intensified being there. But we also have a lot of vampire legends. We have Mercy Brown, and
Yeah.
so going there and the list can go on of like a lot of haunted locations. Like my
Right.
house right now where I live, which you guys been to, you and Jean,
Yeah.
your amazing wife, is that right across the street is where Roger Williams, the founder of Rhode Island, was buried until they
Okay.
moved him, and his family's still buried there. So we got some old history over there as well since the founding of Rhode Island.
Wow, man, that's pretty cool. I've never done a like a mental asylum or like a school that houses like disturbed people like that before, and that must have really been an amazing energy experience. And I also agree with you as far as like explore like investigating outdoors. The energy is totally different than when you explore it like like in a building or in a location. I feel like the energies are much more. They're a lot different. Hey, Russ, how's it going, man? What did I stumble upon? I don't know.
Trouble. That's what you stumbled upon.
Yeah, probably.
It's like we're like the movie Twins, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. Unfortunately, I'm Danny DeVito in this situation.
Hey, we're stepbrothers. Remember the?
Oh, that hey, we're that too. Hey, hopefully none of us have a drum set because I don't want to see that.
I mean, that was one of the funniest pictures ever, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
Yeah, that Portland Paracon.
yeah,
We did the stepbrothers pickup picture. That was like hysterical.
that was a crazy weekend.
Yeah, it really, really was. So, I know that you are an experienced demonologist as well. You've been in studies in that field for a long time. How did you actually dive into demonology? Like, how did that actually become like a focus of what you were doing?
As Russ said, I lived with Russ, and I got into various situations.
Yeah,
But no, in all seriousness, basically I always had a fascination good versus evil, which is it kind of incorporated with the spirits and the angels and demons and stuff. So I always, in the sense of like books and just topics of that situation, I was just always fascinated with because of my upbringing, the trauma I went through, and my religious search. So what basically occurred is when I founded my own group, Ghost Hunters of Supernatural Truth. It was Andre Courier. They were part of a group called Rips at the time, which was on an episode of The Haunted, not a haunting, but The Haunted, which was on the Animal Planet. And Carl Johnson was on that episode, and I always had a big thing for ghost hunters in the early seasons.
right.
So, and they're from Rhode Island. They actually were a stone throw away from where I grew up, and so Keith and Carl Johnson were on there. And funny enough, I had always bumped into Keith at a local Walmart when I was working there as a tech manager, and I mean not tech manager, electronics department manager.
Okay.
And so I'd bump into him and at locations, and it was just first time I recognized him, I said, "Hey, I know you," and he's like, "Oh, you do?" And I was like, "Yeah, you're from Ghost Hunters, and you're a demonologist, and I've read about you, and I'm fascinated in this stuff." So I just started, we just started talking about certain things here or there in passing, and then so when Andre Courier, I knew a group of people that were associated with him that we were friends with, and so I saw his episode, and we just had hit it off, and basically he said, "Yeah, I could get you in touch with Carl." Me and Andre founded the group after he left Rips, but so when me and Carl became acquainted, it was just like love at first sight. Like we were both fascinated with my tech background, and me fascinated with his knowledge and his well spokenness. And so, we just hit it off. And basically, he had asked me to become his tech manager. For most people don't know, I have a very early tech background. And so I said, "Yeah, hell yeah, this is an opportunity." And, disbanded my group, unfortunately. What came from that was a lot of headache. But I joined with Carl. and I started being under the tutelage of him, working with him, learning from him. So that kind of what got me in the applied aspect of demonology and the paranormal. But um, early on, before all this occurred, I was in the military and had a religious experience and became religious at 19 years old. And so I got into ministry work outside of training in the military, and uh, helped out helped out a local Church of Christ, which then I became eventually a deliverance minister through in some segue. So that kind of bled the ministry work and the demonology and in my investment and interest in the paranormal.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing, man. And demonology I find fascinating because there's so much of it that's really unknown, and I mean, there's a lot of false claims of the D word. Obviously, it's kind of like one of those taboo things. Everybody thinks that like a lot of negative energies could be demonic or things of that nature. And like, in your opinion, how do you separate the false claims versus the real ones? Is there a way you can actually decipher that easily, or?
Yeah, I tell most people, even if you're not a clair or a medium or a psychic, I tend to tell people in the presence of such a force, regardless of who you are, you experience that unnerving fight or flight adrenaline rush reaction that you would if you are in a situation where you're being hunted by a predator, like an animal,
Right.
or even a person, and running away from them, or that feeling of adrenaline, and that heart pumping, and feeling sick from it. So there's the feeling, of course, but lots of observation, right? If somebody's claiming, or somebody's bringing you in because of it, you want to observe multiple times, one time, sometimes, regardless maybe of what you do the first time with that feeling, something might come from it. But very much so observation, right? A lot of questioning, a lot of kind of understanding the family unit or the people or person, and
Hmm.
then just going from there. It's I, I I think that's why I have such a low rate of what I qualify to be demon, because I've taken the time not to jump the bandwagon and say it is. Like, maybe earlier in my time doing this, when after I experienced my first case, maybe I was more open to coin something, but I don't believe I never did. I think that I've always been fair in assessment of the situations I've been involved in, but I've also looked back at some cases that I might have thought it was, and then after new experiences and advancements in thinking and understanding, and being less gullible and more objective, I might I look at a couple cases where I say maybe it wasn't even what I thought it to be, right? And it's good to look back and re-diagnose what you've observed or dealt with and experienced, because sometimes you process it a different way in that moment in time, and then when you reflect on it, you start to see things that you didn't see at that time.
Well, that definitely makes sense because, like cases of possession. There are many different ways that you can be possessed. It's not necessarily has to be a demonic. I mean, there are different ways that people channel energies through them. I mean, you've experienced with me myself. I've channeled energies
Oh
a
yeah,
few times. And I know that there's a large long process as far as like, you know breaking things down and making sure that the person's not suffering from some sort of mental illness and things of that nature.
yeah,
That's what I've heard. And I mean, I know a lot of the TV shows also sensationalize possession, or they blow it up to be bigger than it actually is. Or how they cram 7 days worth of work into 45 minutes worth of footage and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it's I was just curious, like, because I know that you've been doing demonology for a long time, and um,
yeah. Yeah,
it's
close to 15 years. It's nuts, how fast. Like, it was probably my early 20s, or 2021 when I started working with Carl. So, or probably 20, I started working with Carl 2021. So yeah, it's been a long time, to be honest with you. It's been an interesting ride, so to say, to like see the things that I have with people.
right.
A lot of it's sad, unfortunately, because sometimes you can't help these people, but it also has brought a lot of peace and love in my life because when you're able to help somebody, not me, so to say, but be the conduit of helping somebody, then one of the best feelings in the world to realize that like you came in, they were sobbing, having trouble sleeping, and then you get a call a week later, a couple days later, or that the next day saying we slept like babies, and we feel relieved. There's nothing better than hearing that, right? Because that you did your civil duty, in some regards, in a weird
Yeah.
way, but there's nothing better to hear that success that you've had for that family, and but it's an up and down road, this journey, but yeah, no, it's been interesting for sure.
Well, no doubt. I mean, I know that you yourself, you've traveled all over the place for paranormal, especially like didn't you take a cruise over to Europe, and you did some investigating over in Europe as well, didn't you? Like,
Yeah, I flew to Romania. Yeah, I was in
yeah,
Romania for almost 10 days, and uh, leading a tour, or being the influencer on the tour for following Vlad the Impale's footsteps, and traveling to other places outside that, as well, which was fascinating because when you see like other culture and all the other cultural beliefs and their identity, it's like you see the commonalities, but you also see the differences in how it's interpreted.
yeah,
But yeah, no, it's definitely fascinating over there for sure. But I wish I've gotten to travel most of Europe. I've been to Romania. I was in Turkey for like a couple hours, but no, yeah, I've mostly done most of the United States, but having that experience over there was definitely eye opening. But it was also a spiritual awakening too, because it was a very much needed healing process during a rough time in my life, and it opened my eyes a little bit, not fully, because you know but that was the precursor to a kind of a spiritual awakening.
oh, absolutely. And I think everybody goes through that at some point or another, depending on their circumstances and stuff like that. It's you kind of need to have that aha moment at some point,
Yeah.
because if you don't, you get stuck in the same cycles over and over again. You could, hey Christy, how you doing? you know so the castles, when you were over in Romania and you were doing like the following the footsteps of Vlad, is the energies over there a lot different than they are over here, as far as is like as far as the paranormal, or does it follow like a linear path? Because I know that you know there's a lot of places you go in like the New England area or other places that have like you kind of get the same vibe. It might be different energies and different people, but you kind of get the same vibe going across. Was Romania like way different than energies you'd experienced over here in the U.S.?
Well, yeah, I don't think there's anything demonic, so to say, within the confines of what I've experienced over there. But I would say if I had to take anything from that question, is that I would say that it was felt more historic. Yeah, we have 1500s on in America.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, if you go into Native American stuff, and maybe a little later with like the Viking landings and early kind of travelers, but that stuff's very old over there. It was a romantic state. It was a Roman foothold. They do have some Slavic traditions there. Romania kind of was the breeding ground of the modern day vampire legend, with the Strigoi.
Yeah.
So you have that feeling there. You have that eerie, like this is old, like walking through a castle that's been there since 1100 is nutso, if not earlier. Going through monasteries that one more so had Vlad Impale that helped. He didn't build it, but he commissioned it and was there on that, at that monastery before his death.
Right.
But so that eerie feeling is there, right? I wouldn't say that it was any indifferent and beside like the historical value and
Yeah.
how old it was. Like I would say the most interesting place that had the most like deceiving kind of feeling was Hoyabaka Forest. And there's a lot of elements to the Hoyabaka Forest that throws you off. It's foggy, the trees are all weird. It's in the night you can easily get lost and it's a maze. But this is also the forest too, where there's a in the center there's nothing that grows, which we were able to do like EMF, and EMFs were going off with no phones on. So it was like that was an interesting eerie experience. I would say of all things that would probably be the most vibrant when feeling something in that sense, because like I said, I don't really claim it. Like
Right.
I have discernment, which really works with people, or good versus evil, kind of like feeling that emotion. But yeah, that I would say that had the biggest impact on me when it regards to feeling something.
Wow, man, it sounds like a sensory overload. To be honest with you, if I, for somebody like who's like an empath, or some people who have, like clairvoyant or things like that, would definitely, it feels like, it sounds like it would be like a sensory just overload.
Yeah. Yeah, a good person to ask that was with me is my great, she's also on this family network, is my good friend Raven.
Oh yeah.
She went with me,
Okay.
and she's a medium. So if you ever have her even on, or you become if you walk in each other's paths and communicate, ask her about that and what she felt, because I know it did impact her, and in a couple spots, and she did feel stuff. And especially when we did Vlad the Impaler's birth home, we were like one of the first international groups to investigate it. I know she had some experiences from that as well. So no, she'd be very fascinating to hear her retell what she went through.
Yeah, I just talked to them recently. I was on their show like last week or the week before.
Yeah, too bad you didn't ask that question, but
Well, man, I didn't think about talking about it until I was talking about it.
I
'Cause
know, right?
I love seeing all the pictures that you had from Romania when you were traveling over there. You were posting all sorts of great, amazing photos, and I figured this is a topic that you and I really haven't really even talked about in person. So I figured, what the hell, I might as well talk about it live on air, because it's fascinating to me, because you know you you don't get to see those things every day. Because
Yeah.
places like that aren't in this country for the most part. And
No. I'd say the most interesting though, where you felt like kind of like, oh, was that we actually went to a live prison, right?
yeah,
And outside the live prison is the old prison where they used to stow away old Cold War like prisoners of war, or political figures like that were anti-Soviet. And that was interesting, walking through that and knowing
yeah, Brandon.
some of the famous people of um, that era, or in that area against the Soviet Union,
Yeah,
were in prison there. That was pretty cool too, and but unnerving that you're right next to a live prison. What happens if somebody escapes? Like it's like, oh
oh,
no! But thankfully that doesn't happen there. And Brandon, really, James Annitto Mosquito.
you never know what's going to be said on.
Oh, I love Brandon. Me and Brandon talk all the time. He's a gaming nerd like myself, so I talk to
Oh,
Brandon
that's
all the
cool.
time. Yeah, Brandon's a cool cat.
Yeah, you know, it really is amazing. Like the paranormal itself, I find fascinating, because we're learning new things every day. Hey Jeff, how's it going, brother? Nice to see you. And I've always been under the mindset that we've barely even hit the tip of the iceberg as far as the paranormal is concerned. All we really don't know everything that's going on. Hey Nate, how's it going, man?
Well, yeah, it wouldn't be called the paranormal if we knew what was about. We have great theories and great speculation.
Yeah,
We have people like yourself that can sense and understand, but it's at the same degree as like a lot of it can't be replicated, and that's the crazy thing about the paranormal. Like you have that experience and you go back to that same, and you can't replicate that experience most of the time. At least most people can't. So
right.
it's like it's really hard to pinpoint. Like we have a rare speculation of what a spirit or ghost is, and then we have physicists telling us that there's no particle they found through these amazing devices that would coin that to be this. So that means if it's not like some particle, then it's something beyond. It's so fascinating that the rabbit hole you can get into. And then, like I talk about in my book, and my second book that comes
Yeah.
out on Good Friday, is that, of course, the first one talks a little bit about, paranormal, a little bit
This
about
guy right
demons.
here. There
Yeah,
it
right.
is.
Um, and then it also talks about the human mind, but the
And that,
history of demonology talks about, like, from the cradle of civilization, which is known as Mesopotamia, to modern times. You can see the development and understanding of the paranormal or beliefs in spirit, which kind of date to almost 10,000 plus years, if not older, with our origin point getting older and older.
yeah.
So it's fascinating, the deep dive, and realize, though, throughout all cultures we all have these experiences. And I try to paint that in my book. I don't try to be. I love how you told me um, before the show of how it paints boxes, and then you think outside the box, you think inside the box, you stare at the box, and that's the whole point of the book. It's like it makes you want to think, but it also tries to tell you, hey, the guy that works in Chicago, to the Chinese farm boy, to the guy in the sugarcane fields in South America, they all have very similar experiences, and to me, that's fascinating.
I agree. And for anybody who knows, the name of the first book is The Psychological Dimensions of the Paranormal by my buddy James Leo, with a forward from another good friend of mine, Mr. Ron Yacovetti, who I have him and Lords coming on in May. Really,
Um,
really great people.
they
You know,
are, man.
so your first book, like I told you, I read the majority of it while I was waiting for my wife's surgery to be finished. Like towards the end of last year, I think it was in November, and when I actually get a chance to sit down and read the book. And if you want, tell people a little bit of the details about like what made you decide to write the book, and you give them a little bit of insight on what they'd be looking forward to when if they actually decide to pick it up and give it a go.
Yeah, so short and sweet. Psychology is an equal love of mine to demonology and the paranormal. I'm in my current master's program in psychology, 6 classes until I get my master's. I grew up childhood trauma that led me onto this journey. So it's kind of like it's a perfect marriage of all my interests, and I got to put it in a book and give people maybe stuff they knew, but also expand upon it. Maybe give things people didn't know. The whole point of the book was to make you think. It was I want some of the great feedback I've gotten, and they hated me for it, but loved me for it. It was making people think of their experiences and questioning it. And it's not for me to question, to like create a taboo out of it again. It's to, like, what did I deal with? Kind of self-diagnose it a little bit better. Look at through an outside observation now after dealing with it. And I want people to question. I want people to seek answers, or ask a question and then get another question from that question. And that's the merits of the book. So I bled all of it together. Um, and I started realizing something as well in my time doing this, in the concept, in a small term, is that as much as I believe sometimes we make ourselves too important as a species, but it truly believes that for there to be a haunting, somebody needs to be haunted, right? There's the human tether is a huge part of spirits, ghost. It's also a good connection to good versus evil in a Christian sense, and even outside of Christianity and other religious beliefs, the human person tends to be the middle person between this battle, through a theological nature of good versus evil. So it's fascinating to me, and that's why I wanted to write the book first, because I wanted to step out of my comfort zone. Um, and most people know me as a demonology guy, and I have that book coming out on Good Friday, but I wanted to step out of my comfort zone. I wanted something to enable me to write. I was on a long hiatus, like I tend to do sometimes in my life, and just disappear. And so I wanted to finally do something for myself that I always told myself that I could do, but I always told myself I couldn't. and everybody else just told me to write books. So I said, in this hiatus, I'm gonna do something that takes me out of that comfort zone, so it pushes me to want to do it. And while writing that book, I was also writing the second book, which is methodical in sense as well, and a little bit more academy, but still pickable up for the average reader, and still able to learn something from it, depending on what reading level you are. But yeah, that's what made me write the first book, out of my comfort zone, and I really love the topic of psychology, and I think it has a great marriage with the paranormal. I know sometimes the science fields, or most of the time, the science field stigmatizes the paranormal, but there are people that don't. There are people that actually really are interested in it, and use true science to try to determine what the paranormal is, and I love that.
I think I agree, and I believe that they both go hand in hand. The people who have natural feelings and the people who back it up with actual like
Yeah.
scientific. I'm more of the natural side of things, and I'm not really good at the science part of it. I definitely I leave the tech stuff to the people who understand all the gadgets and the gizmos and stuff like that. And I tend to I've been blessed with the ability to be able to communicate without using the equipment, and then
Yeah.
having people use the equipment to help just
Yeah.
like and
Yeah, I've experienced that with you, to reinforce you. Like, I tend to test people that are mediums, right? Because it's not because I want to prove them wrong. I just want to learn. I don't claim to have it. Maybe I have some segments of it. I do everybody has a form of spiritual intuition outside of just normal intuition.
right.
Sometimes people close it off, sometimes more people are open to it. But I love testing people and experiencing it. And I've been around you multiple times where we validated through personal experience, through data collection, through
Oh, yeah.
equipment, and then through you confirming, or being the kind of the anchor point of why we dig deeper. And it's fascinating. But yeah, no, yeah, people like you are a gem for sure.
Dude, you know what? My favorite interaction we had was, "Hey, Christine, how you doing?" Was the USS Salem when I came down there to help you guys do the and when I channeled that spirit. Oh my god, that was insane. That was a hell of a night, no
Oh
doubt.
yeah, oh yeah, it was very striking. As for shit that I've had many experiences on, that probably is in the top three for sure. I would say the top would be that there's nothing more like, something working through you is fascinating. But for most times when for the normal person that's not clairaudient,
Jeez.
it is that most times you don't hear it through like actual like frequency of sound that we can hear it at. It's a lower frequency, and it either catches on a recorder or a camera, if video camera. But the U.S. Salem, it was a bunch of us, Laura Brand, the criminologist, Shannon, her husband, Joe, Don. It was just a few of us, and we were all in the birthing area room, and
Yeah.
we just hear like this woman's voice, clear as day. We caught it on, and once the ship's locked, nobody's getting on board once that gate's closed.
Oh no.
So it's like we were all accounted for, and we also caught it on, I believe, two recorders, and also on the video camera that Shannon's husband had running. It was just so fascinating, especially to hear it audibly, right? That you don't get that all the time. So that's something that sticks. And then the second time on the USS Salem, we were doing, Sam Baltrusis and I were doing Paranormal Challenge event, me versus him. And I should have won, but he did get something awesome. But Crystal Lee, who's awesome as all hell too, she had set up a cat ball on the top bunk in the hospital ward.
Yep.
And that shit, this ship rocks, but you're not feeling it.
Right.
And so, the cat ball was on the top bunk and nobody was around it. and we catch it on video. The cat ball just rolls right, and those beds sag, so you need force to kind of flick something off.
Right.
But the cat ball just rolled right off the bed and beat the curve and fell right on the floor and was caught on video. And of course, Don didn't get it afterwards before he judged the night.
Yeah.
But he's like, "Yeah, if I saw that, you would have won. That's pretty badass." And I'm still salty about that, Sam Baltrusis. But but yeah, I've had so many cool experiences on that ship. But yeah, your experience and having that personal experience with you for the show was, for people that were there, they were like, "Holy moly," because it was that crazy.
It was. I'll tell you, that took me a few days to recover fully from that one. That was definitely an amazing evening.
Yes.
I've had some amazing experiences in the Salem. One of my favorite places to have investigated. Hey Raven, how's it going? Nice to see you. We were just talking about you a few minutes ago, and James and I were talking about Romania and all that kind of stuff.
Telepathy.
Yeah, must have been telepathy, for sure. Oh my god, man. Whew. So you said you have a second book coming out, and it's what's the title of the second book going to be?
The History of Demonology.
Oh,
I was supposed to get, well, I'm supposed to get it tomorrow, but I was hoping for it today. I have a proof coming in the mail to do physical edits, and yeah, yeah, I was hoping to, but for the second book, a little throughout. I'm gonna say it tomorrow as well once the book comes, but it is ready for pre-order on Amazon. The History of Demonology. You can put my name, which is in the blue right. Right there. But yeah, no, that is a book that like kind of like talks about demonology from Mesopotamia to modern times. It kind of gives a little bit of a lens of the future of what could come from it and where we're at with it. But it's a development of demonology. Like you said, there's a lot of misconceptions about it. And I
yeah,
think I think people, if they like my first book and the demon section about it, it kind of hits upon a little bit of that, but stays more true to demonology's development. And I enjoy it because I love the historical value of it and how it's developed throughout time. But I think that for people to really understand demonology, it's just a short book instead of like a $50 book that has 400 pages. You can sit down and you read most of the first book in one sitting. You can read it probably in one or two sittings, or if you're depending on how slow of a reader, maybe a week, and walk away from the second book and have a better understanding of the development of demonology and what demonology is.
man, that's pretty cool. I've always wanted to try to write a book. I haven't really gotten that far into it because I don't know. I kind of lose focus real fast on things like that.
Oh
It's,
yeah.
it's it's not even easy for me to do that. But yeah, so the paranormal is pretty much. Give me like your top three places that you've actually like investigated. Like where's some of your favorite spots you've actually investigated over the years? Like personal favorites.
Always Waverly Hill Sanatorium's gonna be there. Just it's a great, cool place.
That's on my bucket list.
Um, Geez, I'd have to say Corvin's Castle in Romania, where Vlad the Impaler was prisoned for
Right.
a numerous amount of years. Also, where they filmed The Nun. And third place, oof.
We can. I figure there's a lot of them out there.
Oh, there's quite. To hell with it, just to say it because I probably had the most experiences there. I'd say USS Salem to be honest with you. Like it would be if for local wise, just to give local love.
Yeah,
I'd have to say it's USS Salem, and then also I have to give love to SK Pierce Mansion in Gardner, Mass. So
that's where I got my first start in the paranormal.
yep.
Was S.K. Pierce. That was like my Gene and I's very first investigation there. Yeah, Matt, he's a really good friend of mine. Waverly is on my bucket list, man. I've heard so many good things about that place. I've always found it interesting, like Trans Allegheny. Is that the one down?
Oh, I love Tala. Yeah, Copperhead's a good friend of mine, Greg, who led the tours there for very very long, and he's helping out again. But yeah, no, Tala's awesome, man. And plus, Copperhead's pretty freaking cool, dude, as well. He's a good dude.
Yeah, Christy's asking where Vlad the Impaler is buried.
That's a good question. So, well, beside his head, there's two monasteries. One, he definitely probably had hand in actually commencing and building. The other one was built in honor of him. So both monasteries claim to house Vlad the Impaler's neck down, and the head would have been with the Turks because they, took his head. So, but yeah, two monasteries. I can't think off the top of my name the names of them
Yeah.
because I'm a space shot. But yeah, there's two monasteries that state that he's buried there. Who knows? They won't let them excavate or do anything because it's like, he isn't as much as he's villainized in Western culture. He's a national hero there. He's still on stamps. He's still on morals, and yeah, no, they love him over there.
Oh wow. I guess evil to some and hero to others.
Well, yeah. What was he? Was he crappy to some of his people? For sure. No leader has ever been perfect in humanity, so he was not perfect any metric. But the people that he put on their heads on pikes and stuff like that were the Turks who were invading his country or his
Okay.
nation. So he did what any person would do in war or battle is he used scare tactics by beheading his enemies and putting their heads on pikes to scare off or demoralize the incoming military that was invading or army. So yeah, did he do some heinous things? Yeah, he did, but he also kind of created a safety net for his country.
Okay. Well, and that's where Dracula was spun off of, wasn't it? Was Vlad the Impaler? Right?
What is it?
Dracula. Dracula was spun off of Vlad the Impaler. I think in a couple of movies, like
Yeah.
the Bram Stoker's Dracula. I think.
Well, yeah, the idea from Bram Stoker was Bron Castle, and when he saw that, and hearing the legends of Romania, which is very fascinating, it gave him kind of like the light bulb to write Dracula, and plus, Vlad the Impaler's father was called Vlad Dracul,
Dracula. Yeah.
which means the dragon,
Okay.
and so that's how the legend of Dracula came to be.
Oh wow. I'm learning something new every day. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
See, Raven has a good memory. Snagov and Komana. See, there you go.
Hey, it's good to have the other person on here that went through Romania with you.
Yeah, that's why I said like I have a shoddy memory, but also at the same time is next time you talk to Raven, ask her about her mediumship things of Romania. I know she had a couple, and we also did. I'm not gonna say, but we did a house, and I would say that alone. I don't talk about it because it's a fine line of why I can't talk about it. But
Yep.
yeah, we did a house, and oh gosh, it's that was. I know Raven definitely had a lot of experiences there. Something more negative of an experience, not demonic, but more negative. Oh, she Googled it. I love it. But those are true. Those are right. Once you said snag off and Komana, I definitely that definitely rang true to my mind.
Kamana, aka Komodo Dragon. Ah, nice. So I know that last time we had talked together, were working on an upcoming podcast that you have going on, a project you have going on called Nine Gates Podcast. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a play off the Nine Circles by Dante Alighieri. His famous poem. And yeah, it's with a demon folklorist, Victoria J. She's a master's in folklore, and she has a book out. I'm not going to butcher the name; it's not in front of me, but she has a second book coming out a little after my second book. And no, she's just amazing. I've been following her for quite a few years. She's newer but she has, I think, a different element to it that's interesting to hear and for people to experience and hear the folklore of it, which is a lot of what is the foundation of what we do in the paranormal is folklore.
Yeah.
And so, we're making a podcast specifically about demonology and demonic folklore, where we do one episode every month, just once a month, and it's a specific topic. We'll talk about it for 2 to 3 hours, and some episodes will have guests. The first episode, the topic is the introduction to
Really?
demonology, and our special guest is John Zaffis, to
Oh,
talk
nice.
about his experience being in the field 50 plus years and how demonology has advanced. But yeah, no, it's going to be an interesting podcast because what I tell people is, as much as Victoria and I have a cohesive nature to us, we also disagree on many things too. So it's going to be great to present that where we can have a healthy debate, but a healthy discussion, conversation, and then also pick other people's minds as well that relate into the specific type of field that we both are in.
Wow, man, that's pretty cool. Your very first guest is somebody that I have on my bucket list of guests that I actually want to get on my podcast at some point. John Zappos, I've respected him and what he does for a long, long time. And it's it's amazing that you get your hands dipping in so many things between trying to get your schooling finished up and writing and publishing and dropping 2 books on the market and continuing on with everything else that you've been doing. It's when do you even get a chance to sleep half the time? It's
My life has been crazy since 3 years old, and I do better which is weird and it's not healthy for you, but I do better under stress and pressure, and I've just been like that for a long time. But then I had a realization: I'm not getting any younger. Start accomplishing things now and start growing now, and make time for what matters, which is of course family, my kids,
absolutely.
Celine, and experiencing life through them as well, and but doing what I love, and speaking about it, and just learning anything that I possibly can. So when my last breath, whenever that is, and hopefully knock on wood, that's not for a long time, I can, if I'm cognitive of it, know that I did everything in my power to live a prosperous life.
Yeah, that's pretty cool to have that. And you have 2 beautiful boys, and Selena's a great woman to have by your side. You have a really great family, and you know and Gene and I are very happy to be part of your life, and vice
Yeah.
versa. I know that for sure because
Yeah.
we talk about it all the time. And I'm going to send a special shout out right now to Gene, whose birthday is tomorrow, and I figured I might as well put it out here on the
Yes.
podcast because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be doing this with you because she got me involved in the paranormal to begin with. And she, from investigating to experiencing my abilities, and then all the great people that I've met along the way. And you and I first met at the Murdoch Whitney at the Historical Society years ago you know, hey, Matt's a really funny guy. He earlier he made a comment saying that when they do their investigations that they're not collecting proof, they're collecting evidence. I mean, it's true. I mean, you're getting evidence of people who were here before us, or people
Yeah.
who were here and left along the same timeline. There's always the debate that there's been multiple timelines of multiple people, and right now we're the current version of what
Yeah.
the people that are currently here. And
Yeah.
the more and more they dig things up on Discovery Channel and the History Channel, it makes me think about it even more and more and
Right.
more every single time. It's
Oh yeah, you can get in quantum physics, look at string theory. Like I said, it's a huge rabbit hole of theories and ideas, and so it's so fascinating. Like I don't call it evidence, I call it data, but to each their own. And
Yeah.
but it's true when you get that and you can't explain it and you
You're welcome,
dissect it.
hon.
Love you, Gene. I'll send you a nice happy birthday text in the morning, like we always text, the three of us. But no, yeah, it's fascinating the rabbit hole you can, because you go down one path, you branch to another whole other spectrum of thought. You have the whole metaphysical realm and philosophy. Really, man, it's so exciting. Like if you take the time to look at it and take that deep dive, and I know you love to, and I know we have so many great conversations at the dinner table or
Oh yeah.
on the couch when we're watching Baby Shark or something, or Miss Rachel. But
Dear God Almighty.
yeah, no, it's an interesting thing.
No, it really is, and I gotta be honest with you. One of my favorite. I've never really mentioned it before that one place that I've been to, just walking through it, that I wish I was able to investigate even for a tiny bit or whatever, is the Stonehenge up in New Hampshire, I think it
Hampshire,
is.
yeah, yep.
Oh my God, man! American Stonehenge. Walking through there and feeling the natural energy, and you see the giant sundial, and every one of those rocks is pointing off into a different timeline, a different point. It's one of the most amazing places I've ever walked through. I don't know if you've ever walked through it or not, but it is.
I've never been. I've always wanted to go.
Yeah, we one day one of my friends and I, we went on a whim just to go walk around it, and the energy there tells a story in and amongst itself, And I know they don't do investigations or anything like that, but that's a place I would love to actually spend a little time. And Jason, I've been seeing Jason on here a few times, and that investigation that we did on the ship when I had that
Oh
spirit,
yeah. Oh yeah.
I almost knocked him out of his chair. That was
Oh yeah.
funny as hell.
Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Oh man, Jason's a who. I love him.
he's a great guy, man. I'm telling you. So I heard you earlier. You're a gamer, right? You're a pretty active gamer, right?
Pretty
So
active gamer, yes.
what rabbit hole of gaming are you jumping down right now? Like what game has your interest peaked at the moment?
So, I have such a huge backlog, and some of that's thanks to Jason because we game share, and man, that
Yeah.
guy's a gameaholic. But um, I would say, right now, my geek side, I've been playing Marvel Rivals because I'm competitive, and I just love the Marvel platform. Love the heroes. I used to be a comic guy in my youth, and no, I've just been playing that for the competitive nature. But really, what I'm looking forward to, which has a little bit of deal with the paranormal realm, is this Friday Resident Evil Requiem comes out, and I'm very excited. I know Jason's excited about it, but yes, Resident Evil. It's such a
Oh, wow.
classic game.
I mean, I remember playing the first couple of Resident Evils way back in the day. What was it, PlayStation, or even earlier than PlayStation? I'm not really
Yeah.
sure when those actually came out. But I
Oh,
remember,
like yeah, early '90s, dude.
yeah, like the original Resident Evil, Resident Evil 2, like back in the day before they like branched off to this whole universe, before the movies were made, and before
Yeah.
the God only knows whatever else has happened in the meantime. And
Though what I'm excited about, from my understanding, don't I could be wrong on this, but um, I like all the Evil Dead movies, but the Evil Dead Rises movie was so freaking brutal, but so good. I heard the director of that movie is directing the new Resident Evil movie and has been given creative freedom to follow kind of the path. But man, if he nails it like he did Evil Dead Rises, it will be such a goddamn good movie.
no, was that the one in the apartment building? Is that
It
the one you're
is,
referring
yeah,
to?
yes,
That was pretty violent. That I'll give that
it-
its due. You know,
oh yeah,
it's hard because I like all those like Evil Dead movies. If Bruce Campbell's not in them, I don't really care about him. I'm trying to be more open to the franchise itself, but Ash is just a legend,
yeah, of
and
course, the
he's
boomstick.
God, my God, him and Freddy are the two funniest guys in horror, and it's just I can watch those movies over and over again just because of the one-liners, of the mannerisms and all
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. It's
gotta
it's
love '80s humor, my man.
80s humor mixed with campy horror and,
Yeah,
and amazing characters, obviously.
Yeah,
know.
no, Ash is great. You know what the great thing about those movies are? They're kind of like a continuum, but they're also like a fresh restart. But there are connections, which is great about it. Like, I didn't mind the one in the cabin. It was a little kind of, but I did love how they kind of transitioned it to be like this is all part of the series. I even the show that he did.
That was an amazing show, by the
It
way. I
was,
watched Ash
it
versus
was,
the Evil Dead. I loved that show.
yes,
That was a
yes,
great show.
it was great.
The only movie in that franchise I wasn't a fan of is when they tried to reinvent Ash and make him a girl. And when the girl took over the mantle of Ash, I was
Yeah, it
not a
was like the
fan.
fourth one or third one or something like that.
Yeah,
That
it was a remake of the
yeah,
original one, and
yeah,
I'm sure it's good as a standalone, but not having Bruce Campbell in the series kind of big. It is
yeah,
true. Horror is based on human life. I mean, look how many horror characters were based off of between John Gacy and Ed
yeah,
Gein. And,
yeah.
Gene and I just went to the serial killer speakeasy down in Narragansett
Oh yes.
last Friday. Which, here's a real quick story. I think you might find funny. We went to Narragansett to do that serial killer speakeasy, and they had Ed Gein's story. They did John Wayne Gacy's story. They did Jeffrey Dahmer's story, which was probably the best one of all because he was actually dressed like Dahmer. And Ted Bundy was the last one.
Uh,
We had talked to the owner of the place in Narragansett. He's like, "Yeah, we never get snow down here." 2 days later, they got hit in the jackpot zone, and they had like 2.5, almost 3 feet of snow. I
jinx
can't even
themselves.
imagine what those people were thinking when they were like, "Oh yeah, we never get snow down here. Yeah, good
Yeah,
luck. Here's your jackpot."
yeah, yeah.
You know?
There's your winter storm killer right there.
It's a horror movie in itself, right there. You know,
Yes. Screw the mist. How about the freaking snow? That's a new movie right there.
if you've ever seen the movie Krampus, the one that came out in like 2015,
Yes.
it the last few days in New England have reminded me of the movie Krampus. Everything was covered in 3 feet of snow.
You know what was a good movie that just had snow in it? Shockingly better than the first one. The first one to me was a good movie. It was The Black Phone too.
Oh, we did. We just watched that one recently. That wasn't
Yeah,
too bad. It wasn't
yeah,
too bad.
yeah,
you know, I did like the fact that in the first one, the actual like the guy was a real guy versus like a hallucination or
yeah.
but no, it was cool.
No, it
My
was
God, I cannot believe this hour has already gone by, man. You and I we talk for hours anyway, so this is
me
nothing
too.
new for us. But so I like to Krampus is awesome. I like to usually tie up the show. I like the Mount Rushmore of horror characters, and why you pick them. So I'm going to put the ball in your court, my friend. What are
Ooh,
your top four, the Mount Rushmore of horror villains for you?
oof, man, that's frigged up, dude.
I know. It's just something I find entertaining because your mind can go in so many different directions, and
Well, I've always been a Michael Myers guy, so Michael Myers is on there.
yeah,
I love science fiction, but it's a horror movie. I don't give a crap what anybody says. The Alien from Alien. What a friggin' movie back in the day that was. Oh god. So Alien, Michael Myers, Pinhead. Gotta love some Hellraiser.
oh yeah, Doug Baker, man, what an amazing, I love Pinhead.
And what this what? So one more I'll give you. Shikes. I will say it's one of my favorite series. Shockingly, but I would say, the old hag from Insidious.
Oh wow, interesting. I've never heard that one used before.
No, it was just how they tied all those movies in. Some were good and some were great and some were downright just watchable,
Yeah,
but awful. I thought how they set that whole movie series up, and and how it's the one demon. I enjoyed that, and I think that it's some of James Wan's best work.
yeah,
He didn't direct all the movies, but he had involvement with all of them. And I just think that, like, out of all his horror movies, that's probably one of his best series. And the first one was one of the first movies to ever give me that jolt. Like, holy shit! It's like and like caught me off guard. So even though it's not the most scariest movie, there's just that one moment that just like took me over the edge. But yeah, that's what I have to say. But as far as horror movies, I'd say one of my favorite movies is Midsummer.
Oh wow, there's the one. Yeah. I don't think I've seen it all the way through. I think I started watching it, and my old man brain made me take a nap in the chair, and I think I ended up missing like the back half of the movie, and it just rolled the credits. So I got to go back in and
Uh,
give it a shot.
it's it's a different kind of movie, but it's so fucked up that it's like the first time I ever saw it, man, like what the hell did I watch? And then the second time I watched it, I'm like, holy shit, this is a great movie, and it's one of my favorite movies that I could rewatch and rewatch and rewatch. But it's hard to do that because I try to have Celine watch it, and yeah, she gargled in fear of the blood.
Oof. My God, man. Where has the time gone, man? I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to come on here. And, you're my brother, and I love you very much. And thank you very much for coming on here tonight. So why don't you give them all a plug on the books and where they can find them? And
Yeah, so you can find me on social media, James Annitto. Go to jamesannitto.com or demonology.org, which links to my main website. And my books are on the book tab. I haven't set the link up for History of Demonology on the website for pre-order, so you can then go to Amazon for both books. Just search my name or put the Psychological Dimensions of the Paranormal or the History of Demonology, and you'll find the books. And hopefully you pre-order the second one and you buy the first one. If you don't, you don't. Whatever. Your loss. But yeah, no, that's how people can find me and how people can find my material.
awesome. Don't forget, it's right here. Go looking for this. This book is great. I don't read very much, but I will definitely endorse this one 100%. So, everybody, I'm Jeremy Cotter. This was James Annitto, episode 6. Thank you guys very much, and we'll see you next week. Gwen, take us home.